Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ollie from Flight Comp, and we're back on the bench today because I have something really exciting to show you guys. Basically an all-new model from CCM in Ukraine, and this one's for all you F3B and F3F lovers, and also F3G if you like to fly with a motor. So this is the new Vantage, and they're calling it the Vantage Race. And I guess the abbreviation for that would be V-Race. That's the logo on the wing. And this is supposed to be basically an all-new model from the ground up from CCM, building on the experience and expertise they got with their first F3B, F3F model, the Vantage. The Vantage was designed like theoretically for light to medium conditions, and I guess it worked well in those conditions, but the new model is designed for bigger lift conditions, more wind, more ballast, things like that. I guess it's supposed to go faster. So we'll take a close look at some of the parts. I want to say right off the bat that I don't really have much information on this model. They shipped me my first batch. There's no information on the CCM website and very little information floating around about it, so I don't have a lot of technical things to share with you, but at the very least we can just take a look at the parts and I can show you some of the features. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is try to compare the new wing with the old wing. So I have the original, or I should say I have an original Vantage wing right here, and if we move down towards the tip, we can see the flat brake here and the flat brake here on the old wing. So we have a slightly smaller flap and a slightly bigger aileron. And going out to the tip, the new model is very slightly bigger in span than the old model. I think it's like 7 millimeters in total, so it's not a whole lot. And just quickly looking at the chord of the surfaces, they are about the same, so it's not like one model has bigger chord on the flaps and ailerons. Those look to be very similar, but overall aileron is increased on the new model and slightly smaller flaps. Now looking at the root of each model, we can see that the new model has a pretty unique wing joiner. It uses two wing joiners. You can grab those right here. So it has a channel for each wing joiner, and from what I know, the spar in the new wing is stronger than the old wing because it has a vertical, like a shear web, running between the two spar structures. So there's a spar structure here, and between the joiners, there's a shear web. So supposedly this is a stiffer wing than the old model. Other interesting thing is they reversed the multiplex plugs in the wing. So as you can see in this guy, we have, some call this female, some call it male. I'll just say female for now. And in the old guy, we have the opposing side to that plug. So they switched the plugs. There were some rumors that you could interchange the old wing with the new wing on the new fuselage, but just based on the plugs, I would say no, and the dimensions overall of the joiners are a little bit different. So from what I can tell, there's no interchangeability between the old wings and the new wings. Quality on this wing is just spectacular, literally second to none. CCM, as far as hollow molded models go, they are probably the best in the world right now, I would say. Now we have Servo Ramen IDS pre-installed, both flaps and ailerons here, you can see that, and also in the wing surfaces and the flaps and ailerons. So very little work to do there. Basically just bolt your servos in, center them up, and install them, put the servo covers on, and you're ready to go with the wings. Now the wings, I weighed them, and this is an F3B layup, this model I have here, and the right wing is 532 grams and the left wing is 531 grams.
So as far as F3B models go, that seems to be slightly light. And I guess that's par for the course for CCM, because their models in general tend to be on the lighter side of things, okay? We'll walk out here towards the tips, kind of get a vertical view. Overall, the shape of the tips are pretty similar. To me, visually, the outboard section of this wing in here looks to be a little thinner than the old wing. This has got, to me, visually looks like a bigger radius right here. And wing area wise, the new wing has just slightly more wing area, but not much at all. Alright, while we're here at the root of the wing, I'm going to give you a look at the ballast slugs. These are like tin or lead slugs, and each one weighs about 87 grams according to my scale. And they fit right here, right behind the joiner, very close to the joiner location. So if we try to put these guys in the wing, I'm not sure how much ballast this guy takes, but we'll figure it out right now. So there's one slug. And let's see. There's two. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 slugs, about 87 grams each, so 870 grams per side, 870 times 2, a little bit over 1,700 grams. That's the full load of the model with all the ballast installed. Okay, let's have a look at the tails here. Actually, before we look at the tails, I wanted to mention with the ballast that we just looked at, the model does not come with spacers, so you're going to have to make your own spacers, wooden blocks, dowels, whatever, 3D print some. I know that's a little bit annoying, but that's just how it is with CCM. They never supply ballast spacers, so keep that in mind. Okay, the tails. First interesting thing, the span and volume of the new tails is much greater than the old tails. This was something that some people didn't like about the original model, saying it didn't have enough tail authority. You can see that the moving part of the old model of the V-tail was quite small, quite narrow on the elevator and rudder here. New version, we have much more chord and obviously longer span, so much more area in the tails. Another thing that has changed is that the joiner for the tails is square now, to kind of get rid of some flex and twisting, as the old model was round. You can see that right there, right? But otherwise, the ball link is much the same as the old model. So not much to say about the tails. I'll give you the weights real quick. Both left and right tails were 30 grams each, so 60 grams total for the tail on the F3B version. Moving on to the fuselage, we're going to start with the back of the fuselage here. Again, we have the square carbon rods for the tails instead of the round carbon dowels. Very nice shape back here, very thin. You can see that carbon shroud. I like this carbon shroud a lot. It fits really well. Super thin and lightweight. And back here we have the normal ball link arrangement. What I noticed is that the height is pretty good here on the back of the
the fuselage. There seems to be plenty of room for those V-tail linkages to go in, and just putting everything together, everything fits just super nice. Really great fit going on back here with the V-tails. I didn't have to do any kind of fiddling around or messing around. They just dropped right on. We'll move up from the tail towards the nose, and we have a very thin boom here. And it's kind of a triangular section with the wider part being at the bottom. Very, very thin, and as we move towards the wing saddle area, you're going to notice right away that this is a thin fuselage. Super thin. I'm not an F3B or F3F expert, but as far as models that I've actually had in my hands, this fuselage seems to be the thinnest. Look at that guy. It's probably no more than like 28 millimeters wide, which is interesting. Again, this is the F3B version, so we have a tow hook installed already. The F3F models do not have this option. Adjustable tow hook, multiplex connectors installed with the wiring harness pre-installed. And this interesting kind of inset wing root here. You can see the step right there. Interesting design. So I'm going to pull the cone off. I need both hands, so I'm going to turn the camera off real quick. Alright, here we go. Canopy's off, and you can just see how thin this fuselage is right here. Nice carbon push rods. I have this little square we can use to actually try to measure how wide this might be at the widest part. And it's around 22-23 millimeters on the outer surfaces here. So yeah, I'm not sure what kind of servos are going to fit in here. I suspect that the kind of X12-508 size servos from KST, MS320s, all servos in that size, they might not fit in here. So I'm not quite sure what the scenario is for the servos. Again, battery up here. 18650s possibly. I want to say I doubt it. I really doubt it. You might have to step down to that 2000 or 2400 milliamp range. I forget the number of the number on the batteries, but they're a little smaller than 18650s. You're gonna have to cut all this stuff out yourself to get everything in here. It's gonna be a super tight fit. Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting. You're gonna have to get your receiver in here somewhere. For you guys that have big receivers, I'm sort of one of those guys with the JR receivers. It's going to be a problem, I think. So definitely no case on the receivers. Just shrink wrap. Yeah, we won't know until we try to build one, because there's very little information on this model right now. But it's going to be one of the tightest fitting fuselages I've ever worked on here. So that's good and bad. Good because it's going to be super aerodynamic, super slick, but just probably a pain in the butt to get the stuff in there. But we'll see how it goes. So that is the F3B fuselage, and the weight on this guy, on the F3B fuselage, is 313 grams. 313 grams. Alright, I'm going to attempt to put a tail on one-handed. This would be a virtually impossible task with most models, but with this guy, super easy. Just a freaking fantastic fit. Amazing. Now I have tried to put the wings on the fuselage, and the joiners are a little tight on one side. It could be that I have to kind of flip these back and forth and see what works. But I'm thinking I'm going to have to do a little bit of wet sanding and polishing on the joiners to get it to be a tight but not difficult fit. Alright, and for you electro nerds out there, we have the new electric version fuselage, F3G version, or just sport flying electric. And right here I have the old original Vantage electric fuselage, and the first thing you'll notice is on the new one, the canopy's on top. On the old one, the canopy's on bottom, and it's kind of starts under the wing root here by the leading edge. So we have, in general, probably just an easier to deal with model because you don't have to flip the thing around to swap batteries. You don't have to hold it upside down. You could leave it on the ground, put your batteries in and out. Seems to me the nose is slightly shorter than the old version, and in general the overall length of, let's say, the F3F and F3B models is slightly shorter than the old Vantage too, the length of the fuselage. So let's see what diameter this is so we can get an idea. Without it being cut, it's 30 millimeters. So 30 millimeter CNC motor mount would do just fine in there without cutting that down. If for whatever reason you'd have to cut that down, you'd have to go bigger. So again, the wing root is basically identical to the F3B fuselage, F3F fuselage. It's got this nice inset here, multiplex plug with harness pre-installed. And we have this just beautifully fitting canopy here with kind of a molded in step that locks it in place. Kevlar up here, so 2.4 friendly. I would run the antennas out regardless on an electric model. Carbon push rods pre-installed there. Carbon ring around the opening, very stiff. The electric fuselage weighs 250 grams, and I did request a strong version, so in general the electric fuselage seems to be lighter than the F3B, F3F fuselage. Now if I put these kind of in line where the wing roots kind of match up, and we come down, you can immediately see that although the fuselage is pretty pudgy up here like the old version, it quickly narrows down, so the old version is much thicker. You can see how much thinner this is. So we have a thinner boom in general. Going back towards the tail, here's the tails. Virtually identical tail moment here. And the again, we have the square versus the round joiners. Identical tail cone to the F3B, F3F version. So all of this back here is identical to the F3B version. No changes here. So that's the electric fuselage, and the old version, both Electro and Pure Glider, they had a cone that just kind of popped on the back like this, versus this guy who has this kind of snap fit. Doesn't really snap fit, you still have to put it on with tape, secure it with tape, but just overall it's a much nicer fit, so I greatly prefer this versus the actual cone back here. So that's a look at the electric version. I am going to try to build a model, Pure Glider, and with an electric setup, and just see how the setup goes in here. You know, what the layout's going to be like, the CG and all that stuff, what kind of batteries to use. So that'll be fun to figure all that stuff out. Alright, there's really not a whole lot much more I can show you on this model. Glider versions come with very minimal hardware. Couple of 2mm clevis couplers, 4 clear servo covers right here. This guy is a 3D printed, I think it's a servo mount of some kind. It's for the electric fuselage, so not quite sure how this mounts or how it's used, but we'll figure that out later. But this does come with the electric fuselage versions. Of course, we have tail covers, wing covers here, nicely embroidered, fuselage cover as well. Moving on, I also have the new joiners here and the old joiner, so you can see obviously this is just a wide standard kind of conventional joiner, and the new model has 2 kind of individual joiners. I wonder if in the future they'll have a steel joiner like they used to have, because that would kind of give you a little more ballast flexibility there. But I want to mention something before I wrap this video up, is that all the models that we'll be selling on FlightComp include the all the protective covers, tail, wing, fuselage, and the ballast. And 99% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, basically all of the time, unless somebody special orders a model, they're going to have IDS installed as well, servo frames glued in. So if you see prices on other websites that are considerably lower than our price, probably the situation is they're just pricing just the airframe and it does not include any of the other stuff, because that's kind of how CCM does their invoicing and billing. They have one price for the airframe and everything else is completely separate and extra. Even this 3D printed piece, they charge individually for this. So just keep that in mind. If you see prices that are several $100s more, that those prices are probably just a bare airframe without covers, without IDS, without ballast, without any of the extra stuff that you're gonna need. I can't imagine anyone ordering one of these without the IDS installed and without the covers and all that. Getting back to these joiners, each one of these joiners, or no, let me rephrase that. Both of these joiners together are 143 grams. So just real quick, we'll run down the weights if you want to do the math. We have right wing 532 grams, 18.75 ounces. Left wing 531, 18.7 ounces. Joiners 143 or 5 ounces. Fuselage, again, these are all for F3B, 313 grams, about 11 ounces. Both the tails are 30 grams each, 60 grams total, or 1 ounce each. And of course, the electric fuse we said was 250 grams. Ballast slugs, each one 87 grams, 20 of those total for the entire model, fully loaded. And again, no spacers are included, so you will have to figure something out with the spacers. You can just cut up some wooden dowels, cut up some wooden blocks, measure and 3D print your own, whatever you need to do. Alright, there's not much else to show you here, guys. Well, alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Again, hopefully in the near future we'll have more technical specifications on the Vantage race. So keep an eye on the FlightComp website or the CCM website for that information, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.